There we go. All right. Welcome everyone to our plug-in webinar on community solar. I'm Amy Puwalka. I work with Mass Energize as the program coordinator for plug-in, which you can find more information at pluginmetrowest.org. I'll tell you a little bit more about the program before I hand it over to Mike Spiro from Nexamp, who's an expert in community solar and is happy to talk with all of you about it and answer your questions. So next slide, Mike. All right, so as I mentioned, we're at pluginmetrowest.org, and this collaboration is funded through, it's been generously funded through a state allocation, and it consists of 4 communities: Acton, Framingham, Natick, and Wayland. And we are including both the municipal sustainability staff members as well as community-based groups. Okay, next slide. And we are working on doing outreach to folks in our communities on 3 clean energy technologies, which are on community solar, which we're talking about tonight, on heat pumps, and on home solar. And on our website also, you'll find links to all the great work that your community organizations are doing, and a lot of effort on those parts. Okay, next slide. So some of the resources you'll find on Plugin Metro West are, in-depth information about each of the technologies. You'll find events like this evening. You'll see in the picture on the right, so you'll find more events there. We are taking a bit of a pause for the summer. But you'll also find testimonials from your neighbors in communities about what happened, their experiences with community solar, heat pumps, and home solar. You'll find information on the incentives that are available for the technologies, and we offer coaching through different community coaches who are volunteers. So next slide. As I mentioned, the website goes into more depth in all each of the technologies, and we're trying to make this website a bit interactive. So if you are able to visit and you want to like us or share us or submit a comment, you can see in the upper right, it's really a great way for us to see and other people to see that you've been there and are engaging and finding the information valuable. Next slide. All right, so how do we come to work with Next? Developed a competitive request for proposals, and this is to select community solar partner that we would help promote and to have people sign up. And the RFP required that the organization had no sign-up fees, no cancellation fees, and they had available space at the time in their current community solar projects. And we got a number of great responses, and we selected 2 partners. You'll hear from Nexamp tonight, who's providing in this partnership community solar to our market rate customers. And we also selected SunWealth, working in a slightly different market that is working with low to moderate income households and people in environmental justice neighborhoods. Okay, next slide. All right, so really quickly, we are going to launch a 1-question poll, if I can get this going. You could quickly answer this question about how much you know about community solar. This really helps us understand who's here and learning, and then we'll have, again, a really short survey when we are completed. All right. Great. Looks like folks have participated. Just give you a, can you guys see the results?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good. So most of us are pretty darn new. All right, and with that, I am going to hand it over to Mike, who's going to tell us all about community solar. And Mike, I believe you have plenty of time at the end for questions. Is that correct?
Yep, plenty of time.
All right.
Cool. So yeah, maybe just to get us started, I'll tell you guys a little bit more about like what community solar is and why it's important. So first on the why, it's a way to make solar more accessible. So a little over a third of all Massachusetts residents are renters. So those are folks who are not going to have solar panels on their roof. And even among the homeowners, even if you can afford solar panels, even if you like the way they look, even if you want to support the environment, even if you want to be doing all these things, your roof might not be suitable. It might be too old. It might be too slanted. It might have dormers on it that obstruct, the roof surface. There might be too much shade. It might be facing north instead of south. There's like so many reasons why, even if you wanted and could afford solar, that you couldn't actually get it. So that's where community solar comes in, which we'll learn a little bit more about in a second. A couple other benefits though, it's not an exclusive program. So one question we get all the time is, oh, I have my own electricity supplier, or I'm part of a community aggregation program. I saw there are a bunch of people in Wayland, so you guys are probably getting excited about Wayland Electricity Choice. This program can be in addition to Wayland Electricity Choice or other similar programs. It's not an either or. And in fact, in working in addition, this is essentially your way to like maximize your savings on your electric bill with these sorts of programs. And like Amy said, there's no sign-up fees, no cancellation fees, and no fees ever. Okay, so how does it work? So it's a state-supported program, and developers like Nexamp will build solar farms to be part of this program. We'll then connect those farms to the grid and start producing electricity. And then instead of that electricity just flowing into the grid with no purpose, the way the program works is we tell the utility, hey, for all the electrons going into the grid, we're going to find off-takers, which could be folks like you, renters, homeowners, businesses, schools, essentially any entity that has an electricity account can be an off-taker. And we'll say, okay, Andrew needs 4 panels for his house, and Chelsea needs 6 panels for her house, and Paul needs 8 panels for his house. And we essentially add up enough people to make sure that every electron of the solar farm is accounted for. And then in return for raising your hand and signing up, you guys get the credit for what your portion of the solar farm produces in the form of credits on your electric bill. So if your 4 panels of the solar farm produces $50 worth of electricity, you're going to get a new line item on your electric bill that says -50, which is the best kind of line item, right? The -1. And then we're not just going to give you that $50 for free, though. Nexamp needs to find a way to make money in this process too. And so that's where the discount comes in, where we're giving you that $50 at a 12.5% discount. So you'd get that first bill from Eversource or National Grid. You'd have that -50. Then a few weeks later, you'd get a bill from Nexamp for 12.5% off that 50, which I don't know why. Normally I use 100 in my example, so I can do easy math, but I don't have to do. So you'd be saving about $7 in that example, where we'd be charging you $43 and some change for the $50 worth of credit that you got on your electric bill. So maybe that still seems a little funky in your guys' head, but hang on to that for a second. I'll show you a very specific example in a minute. What might also help explain it, is this analogy that I found resonates with people. Quick show of hands, has anyone been part of a CSA or community supported agriculture farm share before? Amy has, maybe no one else. Okay, so maybe it's not the best analogy then. Okay, all right, I see a couple hands. Awesome. For those who don't know, it's a way to get fresh fruit and vegetables and flowers and other things grown on a farm directly from a local farm near you. They might be at your local farmer's market, they might sometimes be at your local grocery store. And just like the solar farm, they're trying to say, hey, we're growing all these fruits and vegetables this summer, and we're trying to make sure that we have enough people who are going to be willing to buy it. So they get a bunch of people who raise their hand and say, yep, I'm going to commit to a whole summer's worth of a box of fruits and vegetables that is whatever you happen to be growing and harvesting that week. In the same way that for community solar, you're raising your hand and saying, yep, I'm signing up to take the credits for however productive the solar farm is being. So if you've never done community supported agriculture, I highly encourage that too. And then just a little bit about Nexamp. We're the #1 community solar contractor in the US. We have projects all over. We are headquartered in Boston though, and are very much proud of our Massachusetts roots. And I thought it might be helpful just for you guys to see a couple of our projects, just so you can start to imagine what community solar might look like. So this is Blacksmith Road Solar in Falmouth, on the site of a capped landfill that would otherwise be useless land that we're now turning into a clean energy production site. And about 270 homes or electricity account holders, I should say, make up this entire solar farm that you're seeing here. And then on the right, our sheep are some of our favorite mascots, where this site is not on a landfill, so not otherwise useless land. But we try then to not have the solar panels monopolize that land. So instead of hiring commercial landscapers with their gas guzzling equipment to come cut the grass and make sure it doesn't get too tall and shade the panels, we bring in local sheep farmers and have the sheep cut the grass instead. Okay, so here's the example I promised. And this is literally me as a community solar customer and Eversource customer. You can see my name on the bill here. So a couple of things to highlight. The first is this monthly kilowatt hour use, which you guys have probably all noticed on your bill before. This is essentially what we use to help get you signed up in the first place. So we'll have you send us a recent copy of your bill, and we'll look at these trailing 12 months of your usage to figure, and your rate, to figure out about how much do you spend on electricity annually. And that's how we determine how large a share of the solar farm to allocate to you. But then after that, once we've allocated you, once you're generating credits from the solar farm, it might be a little small on your screen, but right here under other charges or credits, there's this net metering credit line item. That's this big negative amount. That's that line item I was telling you about earlier, where previously I would have had a $129.79 electric bill. But then I got a negative $269.38 credit, combined with a couple other things that aren't relevant to community solar here. And my Eversource bill is actually negative. And so I'll get in a minute, if you are patient with me, I'll explain why is it negative and not closer to zero. But if you look at the dates here, I got this Eversource bill on September 16th, 2023. And now here's my next amp invoice, which I'm getting a couple weeks later on October 6th, 2023, where you can see I'm now getting billed for this $269.38 worth of credit, but at a 12.5% discount. So in this case, I saved $33.67. So I'm only paying this $235 for the $269 that I got on my electric bill previously. So it's a little tough. You sort of have to always be looking at both bills to understand like how the savings is playing out. But this is sort of the best visual I've found to do that. Cool. And here's, oh, Barbara, did you have a question?
I unmuted. Is there only a 1 month lag in this? Like, you said the next month you have that certain amount that's deducted. So my question is how many times would I or any customer be going back and forth among these bills? Is it pretty consistent that it's 1 month to the next?
Good question. So knock on wood, generally it's like a 1 month lag, because essentially what's happening is Eversource is putting the credits on your bill, and then they don't actually tell Nexamp how many credits they put on your bill until after you get that bill. So then we're playing catch up to say, okay, you got these credits, now we're going to bill you for them. And generally that's like a couple weeks of lag. Eversource is not exactly the fastest organization to be working with, as I'm sure you know if you've ever tried to talk to their customer service or anything. But sometimes they will be late to send us that information. So it could be like it has happened before, where it might be 3 months, 4 months after that original Eversource invoice that you'd then be getting for the credits. I will say that's like the exception, not the norm. We have many policy people who are like constantly getting into battles with all of our utility partners to, be getting us this stuff quickly. But generally when something like that happens, we'll let you know, be like, hey, you're probably wondering where your next amp invoice is. It's a little delayed this month because we haven't heard from Eversource yet.
Could I ask one more question, which is money oriented? Looking ahead to tax filing or tax paying, does some of this calculation get figured in when somebody is estimating taxes in terms of, I don't mean estimated quarterly amount, but rather how much do I pay that, I'm not even sure of the right words to use, but what did I pay that was tax deductible or that wasn't tax deductible, things like that. Or maybe this is the wrong exercise to discuss it on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll preface that by saying that I'm not a financial advisor or a tax accountant. So you may just want to ask yours or someone you know who is one. But at least personally, like I don't report my community solar credits as income, because like it's not money coming into my pocket. It's just credits on my electric bill. So in my mind, I'm not like realizing that income. But again, maybe for your particular situation, it could be different. So it can't hurt just to talk to your tax advisor to see what they think.
Thank you.
No problem.
I had a question. In your example, the amount of net metering you get, it seems to be higher than the amount of power you're using at home. So you're basically saying you're allocated some number of panels, and that energy that is generated, you have to pay 88% of the cost of that, even though you're only using half of it.
Yeah, so I'll skip ahead to my slide where I was going to get into that in more detail. But for the moment, let's just look at this green line. So this is generally what a graph of solar production for any solar panel in New England looks like, whether it's on a rooftop or a community solar farm or whatever. Us being so far from the equator, we get much more direct sunlight in the summer. And so solar panels will produce a lot more electricity in the summer than in the winter. And so if you look at this gray line, this is probably the average New England home's electricity usage, where we also tend to use more electricity in the summer. On a day like today, everyone probably has their air conditioners on and is using a lot of electricity. And then most of us in New England, unfortunately, still have natural gas heat, although some of us are starting to transition to electric heat and heat pumps. So generally, people are using less electricity in the winter, but more electricity still than what the solar panels would be producing. So my example was from September, right? So let's just say I was here on this graph where I was getting a lot of production from my solar panels on the farm, and I was using less of that electricity in my house. But then in these like later fall and winter months, that flips, where I start getting many fewer credits on my electric bill compared to what my usage is. And so what we're doing when we're looking at this table on your bill and seeing how much usage you have per year, we're essentially doing the math of this green line to say, okay, based on what we know about this parabola of how our solar farms tend to behave, we're going to estimate like what that generation is going to be. And in the summer, it's going to be more than you need. And in the winter, it's going to be less than you need. And over the course of the year, that's going to add up to like slightly less than you need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so likely your electric bills will shoot up in the summer and then fall in the off months because you're pretty, I don't have to pay for electricity I'm not using. But then
Exactly.
the other question is, in the winter months, I'm going to get I guess you build up a large credit, and then you're saying
Yep.
that the EverSource bill will, it will be $200 in the winter, but you've got, I'm just making up numbers, $1,000 credit, and you don't have to pay anything in the winter.
Exactly. Yep. So you can see here this fourth line here. And again, sorry if this is small on your screen, but there's this balance forward line item where you can see my August EverSource bill was negative 213. And now it's again negative 338, or sorry, negative 208. So yeah, I'm now like, that's now going to be negative 400 something on my October bill. And then you're right, then over the course of the winter, when my net metering credits start being lower and lower, I'll just start eating into this balance, and it will eventually go to zero before the end of the year. And then the cycle essentially kicks off again. So in the simplest terms, you're essentially like changing, you're separating your usage from like how much you're paying in electricity costs on a month-to-month basis, but over the course of the year, it comes out to be the same. So that's definitely something that trips our customers up, particularly if they get their first invoice in the summer. They'll think like, oh my God, like I'm paying way more now that I'm doing Nexamp. Like I thought I was supposed to be saving. And the answer is like you're saving over the course of the year. And on actual specific months, particularly in the summer, like you said, you're going to be paying more.
Well, so it's obviously critically important you allocate the correct number of panels to a customer.
Correct. Yeah, which is why we take that step at the beginning so seriously. But the good news is that we can always reallocate you. So say that we do overestimate, and a year goes by and you still have a huge balance of credits that you're not using. We could say, all right, we're going to reduce you from 5 panels to 4 panels or 3 panels, or whatever it is, so that you're more right-sized moving forward. On the flip side, say that we underestimate you and you're getting not nearly enough credits compared to what you need. Like maybe you got heat pumps, or you got an EV charger, or you got an induction stove, or some, something else where your electricity usage is going up. You got a hot tub, then which sounds not very fun on a day like today. Then we could increase your allocation. So there's always that option in case it's not right at the beginning.
Right. If you under allocated it, you could get a positive bill from Eversource, and also we'd have to pay Eversource and you guys. I mean, it
Yeah.
might be two bills potentially.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I get it.
Barbara, did you have another
Yeah,
question?
just a quick question. I'm listening and trying to grasp this. Is there like a phrase or a name to describe this? I can't think of one, but let's just say I'm just throwing out a phrase here for lack of any great inspiration. So would I say, oh, this is a retroactive model of reconciling expenses? Or, what would be a definition given to this, if anything?
I mean, you could say that you're getting billed like in arrears for benefit that you're getting on your electric bill. But yeah, you could also say you're sort of changing the curve of your annual electricity spend to be steeper and more variable. Yeah, does that help?
A little bit. I think
Find a
I'm
better
kind of thinking I have to learn a different language to think about this and talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
Amy.
I was gonna say, so
yeah.
in my mind, this is like, if you ever signed up or you've seen banks offer like a holiday savings account or a spring vacation savings account, you're putting money away a lot in the summer and building up. And then comes the winter or your spring vacation and you've already paid for what you're getting. And so that's kind of the way I think about it. That's just my own, yep.
I like
And
that.
Andrew has been very patient, so I know he has a question too.
You're sort of one last thing I'll try. You're essentially prepaying for your winter electricity in the summer. Maybe that helps, Barbara.
Without knowing what it really will be. But okay, well.
Yeah, but you're trusting that Nexamp knows what it will be. And Andrew, thanks for being patient.
Yes, I currently have solar on the roof, but I got as much as I could, but it's somewhat shaded. So it's only the two months in the summer where it covers our electricity costs, and for the rest of the year, the electric bill is somewhat significant because we do have heat pumps, we do have an EV, we do have an electric hot water heater, we do have a electric stove. Is there any disqualifying because we have the solar panels, or we're just like anybody else?
No, good question. And you're like a plug-in star pupil if you've already got all that stuff. Well done. But yeah, so you would not be disqualified. And essentially the only thing that would change for you compared to someone else who didn't have rooftop solar is we would just redo this annual estimation exercise. But instead of looking at your full usage, we would just look at your net usage to say like, okay, your solar produces this much and you use this much, which means like this much is left over. So we're only going to allocate you to the solar farm based off of how much is left over.
How do you,
just to complicate it a little more, you say community aggregation doesn't get in the way. But I take it you guys specifically only deal with the 4 the four towns that you mentioned. So living in Lincoln, we should find somebody else.
No, no. Yeah, I think it's just, or I don't know if you want to take this one, Amy, but I think that the campaign specifically is trying to promote these services in those four towns specifically. But this is open to anyone who is an Eversource or National Grid customer.
Oh, that's terrific, because we
Yeah.
definitely are interested.
I had a
Um,
question. I also have solar panels. When you get your electric bill, how do you determine the net electric use? I mean, I don't know what this, I don't know, this chart that's on my bill, that's the actual electricity that I'm using, or is that the net? I'm just curious.
I actually don't know off the top of my head how this bill looks different if you have rooftop solar panels. But here I will drop my email in the chat, Paul, and so you can send to me a copy of yours and I can point out to you what to look at. Let me do that now before I forget. But I can assure you that the people who are doing the estimating do know how to look at that bill and see that you have solar and how to look at the net. But I still think it'd be helpful to describe it to you too, so you can understand.
There's two more questions in the chat, Mike. I don't know if you want to do them now or
Yeah,
you
why
wanted to
not?
get through a couple more slides. Yep, okay.
I have as much. Okay, so Andrew, we already answered that question. Joel, you're flattening the curve, right? Did we answer your question, Joel, earlier when I was talking about the seasonality of the summer?
Yes, I was just saying that's another way to look at it. You were looking
Got
for a metaphor.
Yeah, thank you. And then Wilson is saying, so in your example, you're paying Nexamp for power you didn't necessarily need use. However, one would assume that the power purchase from Nexamp is at a lower cost. No, so that's actually a bit of a misconception. So when you sign up for community solar, you're not changing your electricity supplier. It's either still through Eversource or National Grid, or if you're part of a community aggregation program, like I was part of Boston's here, or if you're part of Wayland's, they are still your electricity supplier. All your arrangement is with Nexamp is like the transfer and billing for these credits. So like, for example, if you lose power, it's still Eversource that you call. It's not Nexamp that you call. And so you're getting in other words, it does. So the Nexamp farms are always getting, just as rooftop solar panels are, Nexamp is getting compensated by the utilities at the retail rate. And then you're just getting like the dollars directly on your bill. So in other words, it doesn't even matter to you, like if your rate is lower or your rate is higher. All that matters is like you're getting these dollars from Nexamp. And they're applying to both your supply and delivery charges, and that you're getting these dollars at a 12.5% discount, essentially. Does that make sense? Yeah, exactly. You're welcome. And yes, I know this is confusing. Oh, one other question. Robert says, what are the four towns? So the four towns, go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I can take that. So Mass Energize is working with 4 communities on this plugin as a pilot. So they are Acton, Framingham, Natick, and Wayland. And that has been specifically a community outreach campaign on 3 clean energy technologies, community solar, heat pumps, and home solar. Community solar, as Mike said, is a statewide program and available to everyone paying an Eversource or National Grid electric bill. So I do believe municipal light plant customers are not eligible for those who have that.
Yeah. So yeah, Robert, essentially, if you have an Eversource or National Grid bill, you're eligible for community solar. I should say National Grid or Eversource electric bill. Okay, jump back to our slides. I think I'll skip this one. So yeah, just in case any of you are lower moderate income or live in an environmental justice neighborhood, I'll tell you a little bit about Sunwealth as well. Sunwealth is another community solar developer, just like Nexamp. The only difference is that they develop projects specifically for low and moderate income and environmental justice households. And so they're getting some extra tax credits and incentives from the state and federal government to develop those projects, which is how they're able to offer the 20% discount instead of the 12.5% discount. So if you qualify, you should absolutely do that, get the higher discount. And there's two ways to qualify. One is you can look on your electric bill at this delivery charge and see if you have an R2 or R4 in that rate name. If so, that means that you qualify. The other way that you can qualify, let me move your faces out of the way, is based off of where you live. So this here, if you've never seen it before, is the Massachusetts Environmental Justice Population Map, where essentially the entire state is color coded based off of these different environmental justice block groups. So you can see all this yellow, for example, is minority population is greater than 40%. Median household income is in less than 150%, et cetera, et cetera. Some different categories. And we can put in the chat also like the link to this map so that you guys can see it. But so if you are in a green or blue territory, so like say you live in this southeast corner of Framingham, then no matter what your income is, like even if you don't have this R2 or R4 rate on your electric bill, or aren't, getting SNAP, public housing, or other benefits, you would still qualify for that 20% discount through Sunwealth. And if you're not sure, this all sounds really complicated, you can't figure out if you are getting a market rate or a discounted rate, feel free to reach out to that same email I put in the chat. I can take a look at your electric bill and let you know. And if you reach out to Sunwealth, hoping you qualify and they say, oh no, sorry, you don't qualify, then you can just go to Nexamp or vice versa. All right, so let's say I've sold you all on how awesome community solar is and you all want to sign up and save on your electric bills and support community solar. You could log on to pluginmetrowest.org like Amy said, and there you'll find either in this technologies tab and click community solar, or on the homepage this quote button for the community solar box here. And that'll take you directly to where the Nexamp and Sunwealth sign up links are. Or you're welcome to go directly to nexamp.com or sunwealth.com if that's simpler. But yeah, I think that's all the prepared content I had for you guys today. But like Amy said, I'm happy to hang around and answer more questions if people have them.
Yeah, I do. It does seem like from your presentation, this is just free money. And
Yeah.
why would anybody do it? We just in Weston have adopted what used to be called Weston, I think it's still called Weston Power Choice. And it just went into effect. So, and I think I understand how the two work together, which is in a sense, they don't. They're separate programs. And you can do both, is my. And I also, while you were talking, I looked up Maine, and it looks like Nextamp is also in Maine.
Yep.
and has a similar program where you can sign up there too as well.
Yeah, so if you have like another home, a vacation home or something in Maine, or if you have family in Maine, then yeah, they're welcome to sign up too. We're in Versant and Central Maine Power, Bangor Hydro territory. Also in a number of other states, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, Virginia, Maryland, soon to be Hawaii, if anyone's got a vacation home in Hawaii. So yeah, plenty of opportunity for friends and family who live in those states too. But yeah, I had skipped this slide before, Joel, because it's a lot to look at, but hopefully this answers your question. So 3 different scenarios here. So let's start with the one on the left. This is talking about Wayland Electricity Choice specifically, but it could be, I just figured there'd be mostly people from Wayland here, but this could just as, did you say it was Weston that you live?
Yes.
Yeah, it could be any other town's municipal aggregation program.
Which I
So
don't think is an environmental justice community, unfortunately. Neither is Wayland.
yeah. So let's just say, so previously Eversource would have been your delivery provider and supplier. And maybe you got $100 bill from them, 50 of which was your delivery, 50 of which was your supply. You don't get any net metering credit. You don't know anything to Nexamp. You're just purely an Eversource customer here. Then in this second example, let's just say you're part of Weston Electricity Choice. You're paying now instead of Eversource being your supplier, that's through Weston Electricity Choice, and you're saving. And I'm just making up a number here. Let's just say you're, instead of that $50, you're now paying $38. Because Weston, on behalf of all its residents, negotiated a lower supply rate. So instead of this $100 bill, you're paying only $88 and saving $12. Now, all the way on the right, let's assume you're part of the aggregation and community solar. So you're still saving this $12 on your supply, but now you're also getting some amount of net metering credit from your community solar share. Let's just say it's $80. So in this example, you're only paying $8 to Eversource because it's 50 plus 38 to get your 88 minus 80 is only a balance of 8. So you're owing 8 to Eversource, and then you're owing 70 to Nexamp, which, you're only paying 70 for that $80 worth you got because of the 12.5% savings. So in total, between what you owe to Eversource and what you owe to Nexamp, you're paying 78. The 8 plus the 70. So you're saving a total of $22 here compared to only the $12 when you're just on the supplier.
This chart is very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. And trust me, I wish it could be simpler than this. I wish, Eversource would let us just give you like one bill for Nexamp, and whatever you owe to the utility, we could just remit to them. That's something we're working on. But at least for now, it's still this world where you're getting 2 different bills and sort of needing to reconcile the differences.
All right, before everyone starts jumping off, I did promise a really quick end poll that I'm going to launch now. It is super fast, 3 questions. And it's really helpful again to us. So please take a second to do this. Five more seconds. All right. I'll share those results just for everyone's sake. Looks like people learned tonight, which is wonderful. The next question was feeling more confident to take the next step. For example, in signing up for community solar, looks like some folks are pretty excited. That's awesome. And would you recommend a friend? So this is great feedback. Thanks, everyone. And we can keep the conversation going for those who want to stick around with more questions or listen to answers.
Awesome. And one other thing I'll add is that for all those people who, you know, are saying they want to spread the word to their friends, once you get signed up with NextAmp, and I assume the same would be with SunWealth, we have a referral program where we'll give you gift cards in exchange to getting other people to sign up, even if they don't live, you know, in your same town or anything. So if you're just as excited about community solar as I am now, you can earn even more savings by getting some of your friends to sign up. Robert.
So I'm sorry, I joined late and I'm from Sudbury, but you indicated that as long as I pay an Eversource electric bill, I can participate.
Yep.
And what is the advantage of being in the four member towns?
Yeah, I'll take that. Robert, good question. So this was the 4-member towns was a pilot outreach program to help bring programs like this webinar to you. Prior to the plug-in pilot, I don't believe any, at least of these 4 communities, had done a community solar webinar. And since we've had the pilot running, it's only been running 4 months, 5 months. We've had at least one per month. So it's really a collaboration trying to figure out best means of outreach to residents and what residents are interested in learning about. And we are pausing for the summer, and other communities will be welcome to join. It's a program through Mass Energize, which is a nonprofit.
But yeah, but from
Hope that
from
answers.
the, you know, the perspective of the discount and like ability to sign up, it's like there's no difference what town you live in.
No, just that NextAmp has been a great partner and SunWealth has been a great partner. I do think it is unique that they agreed to work with one another. And we really appreciate that. Mass Energize, our communities really appreciate that, where if you get a referral and you know, someone applying and they don't, they're going to refer to one another. So and try and help people get signed up in the right place.
Any other questions? Cool. And Fabian,
Thank you so much.
Did you have any other
Thank you.
follow-up questions, Fabian? We can stay later if that would be helpful.
It was very informative. Some of the questions that they made was the same questions that I had.
Awesome.
And like after someone sign up, how long should it take for them to see, like, to receive the credit?
Good question. So generally it's like a couple months, few months. So even if we have like a space open on a farm right now, that's like the perfect allocation for you. We essentially have to make a request to Eversource to add you to the farm. And like I said before, Eversource is not the fastest organization. I'm bashing on them. They're actually a lot better than some of the other utilities we work with. But it could take them, you know, a few months just to get you added. So if it's the case where there's not a spot immediately available, you'll need to wait a little bit for a spot, which would either be like a new farm going live, or, you know, say someone moves away and has to like forfeit their allocation of an existing farm. So you'd wait for that slot to open up, then wait for that period for Eversource to process it. So like it depends is the answer, I suppose. But there's no harm in just getting in the system as early as possible, and then essentially like you're saving your place in line. But generally right now, I think we're looking at like 3 to 6 month periods for before your credits would start. But that could change. Like tomorrow, a new farm could go live, and all of a sudden we have a whole bunch of spots open. So yeah, it's like a constant game of like musical chairs that we're playing with all these community solar farms. Any question in the chat? Yep, renters are eligible too. Yeah, as long as you are paying an Eversource or National Grid electric bill, you're eligible.
Any other questions?
Well, is our next step to contact you with our phone bill, our heating bill, or how does that work?
Yeah, we can maybe Amy can put the links to both the Nexamp and the SunWealth sign up pages in the chat. Thank you. So yeah, all you do when you get there is essentially we're asking for your name and contact info and a copy of your electric bill. And that starts the process. The team will analyze that and then reach back out. And like I said, feel free to reach out to me personally too if you have any doubts or questions or need any help.
Of course, that didn't come out as a link, but
No, it did. I'm seeing it as a link.
oh, good, good, good.
Any
All right.
final options, or is everyone ready to continue their evening?
I think we got the good meat. I'm gonna stop our recording.
Cool.